With the release of Encanto in November 2021, Disney's latest animated musical has swept the globe with its beautiful visuals, relatable characters, and complicated themes that are so rarely addressed in Disney films. There are so many reasons to love this film. Some may even call it perfect, and I'm definitely one of those people. However, there seem to be some people who think Encanto's conclusion lessens the film by how the story revolves around these characters learning that they are more than just their gifts, but end up with them all getting their gifts back anyway. And I think with a movie like Tangled, they'd be right. Tangled follows Rapunzel being exploited by her adoptive mother for her magical healing hair, but then she meets someone who loves her for more than her magic hair, so when it's finally cut off, it's a sign of Rapunzel breaking free of Mother Gothel's conditional love and possession forever. That kind of ending works, but not with a story like Encanto. That said, today we're not going to compare Encanto to Tangled, instead we're going to compare it to Frozen, as well as justify why Encanto's narrative doesn't work if the Madrigal's gifts were taken away for good, and how it affects the characters' development, their relationships with one another, and the setting compared to Frozen, since it's another Disney film in the last decade that focuses on sisterhood, family, power, and responsibility to a group that isn't just their immediate family. Throughout Frozen, there are 3 locations the film takes place: the Kingdom of Arendelle, the woodlands where Anna and Kristoff meet at the log cabin, the Troll's Grotto, and Elsa's ice castle. Starting with Arendelle, or more specifically, Elsa and Anna's castle, we have the first musical number, Do You Want to Build a Snowman?, which immediately introduces the sisters' conflict and emphasizes Anna's loneliness without Elsa by describing the environment she's grown up in.
I've started talking to the pictures on the walls. Hang in there, Joan.
And by the end, the sorrow they both share from losing their parents and their need to confide in one another. Anna and Elsa's castle isn't just their castle, it's their home, and it's a home that's been damaged by the death of their parents and 20 years of their parents telling Elsa she's dangerous and needs to be isolated from the rest of the world, including her own sister. Right off the bat, there's a lot the movie has to work with here, but as soon as the characters leave Arendelle, this is where things get muddled, because the rest of the locations in Frozen have no or forgettable meaning to the sisters, especially the tonal dissonance of what Elsa's castle represents. Midway through the film, Elsa runs from Arendelle, a place symbolic of hurt but also family, most specifically her relationship with Anna, and for the first time in her life, she's able to experiment with her powers, builds an ice castle, and gets a sparkly new dress. Let It Go is an interesting study because it's not a conventional I want song, it's an I have song. By this point in the film, Elsa already has everything she wants. By separating herself even further from Anna and Arendelle, she can finally be who she is. But we, the audience, know that Elsa needs to come back to fix the eternal winter and reconcile with Anna. Elsa's ice castle symbolizes her freedom of self-expression, but it's also her separation from Anna and her responsibility as queen. When Elsa does return to Arendelle, her ice castle is kind of forgotten. The movie never tells us what happened to it. Did Hans and his soldiers destroy it? Did it disappear once Elsa was no longer in proximity to it? We just don't know. Despite being Elsa's first creation, her shelter, one of the most iconic moments in the movie, it holds no sentimental value to Elsa, and the film abandons it as it enters its third act. Now compare the ice castle to Isabella's room, and more importantly, Elsa and Anna's dynamic to Isabella and Mirabel. Isabella and Elsa are the perfect eldest sister, while Mirabel and Anna are the more plucky kid sister who just wants to be loved. However, it turns out the eldest sister has another side to her, a more unconventional side, and if she doesn't put on a brave face, it could have irreparable consequences for her. Isa's conflict with Mirabel is that Mirabel represents what she fears she'll be if she doesn't make Alma happy, but when Isabella starts to experiment with her powers in her own room, the only place in the casita where she could be herself entirely, it's because of Mirabel, and it makes her actually happy for the first time in what would probably be years. And as a result, Isabella developing her powers is what brings the sisters closer together. Meanwhile, Elsa starts off not knowing how to control her powers and emotionally hurting Anna, but still ends up hurting Anna anyway when she does learn to control her powers. It's only when Elsa's worst fear is realized and she turns Anna into an ice statue is she able to bring her back with the power of love and, well, Movie over. Frozen's problem is that because Anna and Elsa's relationship is stagnant until the very end of the movie, they don't really have a relationship with one another. And this is made worse because they don't have much of a relationship with their kingdom, and the main goal of the movie is Elsa returning to become queen. We never see Oaken again. Kristoff only really cares about Anna. Olaf is there. The trolls don't count, and everyone else in Arendelle is a bad guy or background character. So the goal of getting Elsa to return to Arendelle and become queen doesn't have much meaning because we, as the audience, don't have any reason to care about them. Elsa doesn't want to be queen, and nobody in Arendelle except Anna wants her to. See For the First Time in Forever reprise. Speaking of songs, even though the movie is about saving Arendelle, none of the songs are about why Arendelle should be saved or why any of these characters care about Arendelle. Let It Go is about Elsa not being afraid of her powers. For the First Time in Forever is about Elsa being afraid of her powers and Anna finally being able to socialize with all the people that will later want her sister dead. Same with Love is an Open Door. In Summer is about Olaf enjoying summer. Fixer Upper is about the trolls once again inserting themselves in other people's business. Reindeer Are Better Than People is about how reindeer are better than people. And Frozen Heart is a forgettable musical number about harvesting ice that doesn't seem like a plus to Kristoff and the other ice miners when Elsa causes the eternal winter.
You want to talk about a supply and demand problem? I sell ice for a living.
Ooh, that's a rough business to be in right now. I mean, that is really... that's unfortunate.
Again, just this one small thing would have added so much depth to Frozen's world building. With Encanto, even though the movie takes place in one location, arguably two if you count the river, we're able to explore the casita and what it means to these characters, not just as a sentient being helping Mirabel on her journey, but as a shelter for the Madrigals and their community, especially for Alma, who lost her husband in the Thousand Day War. I'm not a historian and I'm not Colombian either, so I'm going to leave a link in the description below that goes into a bit more about Colombia's historic conflict and is a lot more articulate about it than I could ever be. When we're introduced to Bruno, even though he has removed himself from the family, he still yearns to be with them. The casita not only has sentimental meaning to Bruno, but it has thematic meaning as well. Bruno lives in the walls, but everyone in the family has built these metaphorical walls to protect themselves from each other. It's only when the casita is destroyed and Mirabel and Alma go to the Cano Cristales River, they're able to reconcile and return to their family. Unlike in Frozen, where Anna finally does understand Elsa's trauma, Elsa still has her hang-ups. She accidentally freezes Anna and doesn't even return to Arendelle of her own volition. Instead, she is captured and imprisoned, told by Hans she killed Anna, and after Anna turns into ice to stop Hans from killing Elsa, Elsa realizes it took the consequences of her ice powers hurting Anna, something she's always feared, and they reconcile. No talk. Elsa's reclusiveness is gone just by hugging it out.
Let's hug it out! Huh?
Hug it out?
It's the same narrative beats of Encanto, but executed entirely differently, because unlike Elsa, Alma chooses to find the person she hurt and apologize. And now we reach the end where we answer the question, why did the Madrigals get their gifts back if the film's message is about deserving love without a gift? Well, there's two answers to this. The first answer is that for some characters' arcs, their powers represent parts of themselves that they need to learn to embrace. Isabella learns to create more than just flowers. Bruno's visions are actually appreciated, and by the end of the movie, Peppa is no longer insecure about being unable to control her weather and dances in her hailstorm. As much as the Madrigals need to learn they are more than just their gifts like Luisa does, they need to learn it's not something that should be repressed and controlled. And we see this with Antonio the very next morning he receives his gifts. Alma is already seeing faults in his power.
I told them to warm up your seat.
Thank you, Toñito.
And so it was important that the resolution to Encanto wasn't taking the gifts away, but visualizing these characters' internal breakthroughs and being accepted by their family and community. Which leads to my second answer. The gifts are not just for the Madrigals, they are for the community, the Encanto. The Madrigals are not monarchs like Elsa and Anna, but they are community leaders. We see this in the family's first introduction. Julieta heals the sick and wounded, Camilo babysits while a mother rests, Luisa carries donkeys, bridges, churches, etc. Unlike in Frozen, the only time Elsa uses her powers to help her kingdom is when she stops the eternal winter and makes an ice skating rink. Throughout Encanto, every song is about the Madrigals' relationship either directly or indirectly with their community. They're never just about themselves. The Family Madrigal is an introduction to the family's gifts and how they provide for the community. Waiting on a Miracle is about Mirabel wanting a gift so she can help her community and make her family proud. Surface Pressure and What Else Can I Do are about the weight of not only the family but also the community's expectations. We Don't Talk About Bruno is about how Bruno failed to provide for his community and is now ostracized from the family. And finally, Finally, All of You is about Mirabel reconciling with her family and the community giving back to the Madrigals by rebuilding their casita. Even though Encanto's community are not the film's primary focus, they aren't just wandering background characters. The story needs them just as much as it needs the Madrigals. When watching the Frozen trailer for this video, it asks who the heroes of the story are: Iceman, Sideburns, Josh Gad, or Anna. And while Frozen ends with the community being saved by their heroes, Encanto ends with the heroes being saved by their community.